The cleaner should use the service entrance. Auntie Hawa Kamara said it loudly enough for the people near the registration table to hear. Mariama Conte stopped beneath the amber chandelier of the Reed Grand Calgary Hotel, with one gloved hand still around the handle of her handbag. Snow melted along the shoulders of her gray work coat. She had come directly from the hospital after supervising a night sanitation shift, changing only her shoes in the employee washroom before taking the train downtown. Hawa looked at the coat, then at the polished ballroom doors behind her. "The family banquet is inside," she added. "Staff go around the side." Mariama opened her mouth, but her daughter reached them first. Isatou Conte wore a fitted burgundy dress and a gold event badge bearing the logo of her planning company. At 34, she had built her career on rooms like this one, rooms where light softened every surface and people measured one another before saying hello. Mariama waited for her to smile. Isatou did not. Her eyes moved from her mother's coat to the two corporate clients standing near the guest list. "Mom," she said under her breath, "why did you come dressed like this?" "I came from work." "You were supposed to go home first. The program begins in 20 minutes. Hawa gave a small laugh. "I truly thought she was with housekeeping." Isatou did not correct her. That silence entered Mariama more sharply than the words. Behind the desk, a young hotel employee glanced between them, uncertain. Mariama reached into her handbag for the printed invitation. Before she could unfold it, Isatou placed 2 fingers on the paper. "Please," she whispered, "do not make this difficult." Mariama looked past her into the ballroom. White linen covered the tables. A large screen displayed the Conte Family Achievement Banquet. At the bottom were the names of sponsors and community partners. Her own name was absent. 3 months earlier, Mariama had transferred 19,000 Canadian dollars from the savings account she had built through overtime shifts. Isatou had called it temporary support. Mariama had called it a gift to the family. Now the daughter, who had accepted the money, stood between her and the room it had paid for. "I am on the guest list," Mariama said. The employee checked the tablet. His finger moved down the screen twice. "I do not see that name, ma'am." Isatou spoke quickly. "There was probably an administrative mistake." Then she lowered her voice again. "Let them take you through the service corridor. I will fix it before dinner." Mariama studied her daughter's face. Not fear. Calculation. Isatou was deciding which version of her mother the room could afford to see. Darius stood several meters away beside the photo wall. At 31, he had their father's careful eyes. He saw Mariama. He saw the employee reaching for the side door. He also saw Isatou's clients watching. His hand lifted slightly, then fell back to his side. Mariama folded the invitation and returned it to her bag. Inside was the blue handkerchief her late husband had carried during their first winter in Calgary. She closed her fingers around it while the employee opened a narrow steel door beside the ballroom. Warm music faded behind her. The light changed from gold to white. The carpet became gray tile. A catering cart rattled past, and the smell of coffee gave way to detergent and hot metal. Mariama had walked this corridor nearly 20 years earlier, after cleaning guest rooms until dawn and taking 2 buses home before waking her children for school. She knew every turn. She also knew she had entered the hotel through the front door. It was her family who had sent her back here. At the far end of the corridor, a black woman in a banquet uniform looked up from a stack of folded linens. The towels slipped from her hands. "Mariama?" Gloria Mensa said. Gloria crossed the service corridor before Mariama could answer. At 55, she still moved with the quick precision of the banquet supervisor Mariama remembered, but silver now threaded the braids pinned beneath her black service cap. She gathered the fallen towels with one hand and stared at Mariama's gray coat. "Why are you back here?" Mariama looked toward the steel door that had closed behind her. Music pulsed faintly through the wall. "My daughter is busy." Gloria's eyes narrowed. "Busy doing what?" Mariama did not answer. Gloria had known her when both women worked housekeeping on the 6th floor, when winter salt cracked their shoes and supervisors counted every minute spent inside a room. She had known Samuel before illness took him. She had watched Mariama collect overtime shifts after his death without once telling the children how close the rent had come to failing. "You came for the banquet," Gloria said. It was not a question. Mariama opened her handbag and showed the folded invitation. The paper was expensive. Her name was printed correctly. Gloria read it twice, then looked toward the ballroom. Then why did they send you through service? Mariama slipped the card away. Because my coat answered before I could. A catering assistant hurried past with trays of sparkling water. Another employee entered carrying a rack of guest jackets. He looked at Mariama, then at Gloria. Is this the extra coat check attendant? Gloria's mouth tightened. Before she could respond, a radio clipped to her belt crackled with Isatu's voice, asking whether the woman from the entrance had been handled. Mariama heard every word. Gloria pressed the button. The woman has a name. Silence answered. Then Isatu said, Please keep this professional. Gloria lowered the radio slowly. Professional, she repeated. Mariama touched the blue handkerchief inside her bag. Samuel had carried it during their first winter in Calgary, when the heating failed in their basement apartment and they slept in coats beside the children. Years later, she had used it to wrap cash before depositing tuition for Isatu's event management program. She remembered her daughter crying in the kitchen because she believed the fees were impossible. Mariama had told her not to worry. She had worked 47 nights in 60 days. Gloria glanced at the banquet program left on a service cart. On the front, Isatu's name appeared beneath founder and executive planner. Inside was a speech titled, The Sacrifices That Built Us. Mariama's name did not appear anywhere. Neither did the $19,000 she had transferred. Who paid for tonight? Gloria asked. The family. That is not what I asked. Mariama met her eyes. I paid most of it. Gloria looked back at the program. Something in her face changed from anger to calculation. Does Isatu know I know you? She knows. Does she know the owner knows you? Mariama's fingers stopped around the handkerchief. Malcolm has not seen me in years. That was not my question. Before Mariama could answer, Darius appeared at the end of the corridor. He had left the ballroom without his jacket. In his hand was a printed budget sheet. Mom, he said, breathing too quickly. Isatu listed your transfer as anonymous family support. Mariama looked at the paper, but did not reach for it. Darius came closer. I asked her why your name was missing. What did she say? He hesitated. She said tonight was not about your job. Gloria's radio crackled again. A server stepped around the corner carrying an empty coat check tray and handed it to Mariama. They said you could help downstairs. The tray was polished silver. Mariama saw her own reflection in it, stretched and dim beneath the fluorescent light. She took the tray with both hands. Gloria stared at her. You do not have to carry that. Mariama looked toward the ballroom door. I carried heavier things for that room. Then Gloria reached beneath the service cart and pulled out a ring of old keys. Come with me, she said. There is something downstairs that they forgot was still here. Gloria led Mariama and Darius down one flight of concrete stairs to the old housekeeping level beneath the ballroom. The air smelled of laundry steam, floor polish, and the faint mineral cold that entered Calgary buildings every winter. At the end of the corridor stood a metal storage room with a faded sign that still read staff records. Gloria tried 3 keys before the lock turned. Inside, shelves leaned under boxes marked with years, departments, and employee numbers. Mariama stood in the doorway without moving. 20 years earlier, she had entered this room before sunrise to collect fresh sheets after cleaning 14 guest rooms on the 6th floor. She would finish at 7, ride 2 buses northeast, wake Isatu and Darius for school, then sleep until noon before beginning again. After Samuel died, the schedule became harder. The mortgage payment arrived, whether grief had slept or not. Isatu's tuition arrived in 3 installments. Darius needed drafting equipment for his engineering program. Mariama never told them that she once ate hospital cafeteria soup for 9 consecutive nights because the grocery money had gone toward a registration deadline. She had believed sacrifice should feel like shelter, not debt. Upstairs, applause rolled through the ceiling as Isatu began her opening speech. A speaker carried her voice faintly into the storage room. Every achievement begins with courage, she said. Our family learned to build opportunities instead of waiting for them. Darius looked down at the budget sheet in his hand. Beside anonymous family support was Mariama's transfer amount. $19,000. Below it, a note in Isatu's handwriting read, "Donor recognition not required." She knew, he said. Mariama did not look at him. Of course she knew. Gloria moved along the shelves, reading labels. The old department manager ordered half these files destroyed when the hotel changed ownership structure. I kept copies of anything involving safety. She pulled out a gray archive box. Dust lifted into the fluorescent light. The label had faded, but the black marker remained legible. M. Conte. Incident logs. Mariama's hand tightened around the silver coat check tray. Darius stared at the box. What incident? Before Mariama could answer, Isatu's voice continued upstairs, thanking mentors, business partners, and relatives who had supported her career. She did not mention the woman standing below the ballroom. Gloria opened the box. Inside were shift notebooks, training checklists, chemical storage reports, and carbon copies of formal complaints. Mariama recognized her own handwriting immediately. Dates, room numbers, overtime hours. Names of supervisors who had ordered immigrant workers to sign inspections they had never completed. One report described cleaning chemicals stored beside Banquet food supplies. Another recorded staff being told to work unpaid after clocking out. Darius picked up a page, then stopped. You wrote all this? I wrote what happened. Why did no one tell us? Mariama looked at him. You were children. Your job was to grow. Gloria found a cream envelope beneath the reports. The hotel crest was embossed at the top. Inside was a letter signed by Malcolm Reed, then general manager. It thanked Mariama for preserving records that allowed the hotel to remove a dishonest supervisor before guests or workers were seriously harmed. It also confirmed that the hotel had offered her a personal reward. At the bottom, a handwritten note stated that Mariama had declined the money and requested paid safety training and language support for immigrant staff instead. Darius read the final line twice. You gave it away. I put it where it was needed. Footsteps approached in the corridor. Isatu appeared in the doorway, still wearing her gold event badge. Her eyes moved from the open archive box to Malcolm's letter in Darius's hand. The color left her face. Close that, she said. Gloria remained beside the files. Why? Isatu looked at Mariama, not Gloria. Because this is a private family event. Mariama held her daughter's gaze. Then why did you make me a stranger in it? Isatu stepped inside and lowered her voice. Please leave before the owner arrives. The room went still. Darius looked between them. Gloria slowly folded Malcolm's letter back along its original crease. Mariama understood then that Isatu had not only hidden her mother's job, she had hidden the possibility that someone important might remember exactly what that job had revealed. Isatu stepped farther into the records room and reached for the archive box. Gloria moved it out of reach. Those files belong to the hotel, Isatu said. Not to this event. Neither does your mother, Gloria replied. But you still tried to manage where she could stand. Darius remained beside the shelf with Malcolm Reed's letter in his hand. The paper trembled slightly, though his voice did not. You knew about this? Isatu looked at him as if he had broken a rule by asking, I knew Mom worked here. That is not what I asked. Upstairs, applause rose again. The sound traveled through the concrete ceiling like weather from another world. Isatu glanced toward it. I have 200 guests waiting. Corporate clients, community leaders, people who decide whether my company gets next year's contract. Mariama watched her daughter adjust the gold badge at her waist. Even now, Isatu was arranging herself for the room above. And what do those people decide when they see me? Mariama asked. Isatu exhaled. Mom, please, say it. They see a cleaner. The word landed without Auntie Hawa's laughter around it. This time, it belonged entirely to Isatu. Mariama set the silver coat check tray on a nearby cart. I was a cleaner. That is not the point. Then what is? Isatu lowered her voice. You do not understand how these people think. Mariama looked at the incident logs, the training records, and the letter that had remained hidden in a metal room while her daughter built a career upstairs. I understand exactly how people think when they believe work makes someone smaller. Isatu turned to Darius. Give me the letter. He folded it once and placed it inside his jacket. No. Her face changed. Not anger first. Surprise! She had expected obedience from him because silence had always been easier. You are making this worse, she said. You listed Mom's $19,000 as anonymous support. Darius held up the budget sheet. You removed her name. She did not ask for recognition, Mariama answered before he could. I did not ask to be hidden. Isatu looked at her mother, then really looked. Beneath the gray work coat was the navy dress Mariama had worn to Samuel's memorial service and every family milestone since. She had brought the blue handkerchief because her husband's photograph would be shown during dinner. The family banquet had been planned around sacrifice, but the woman who carried most of it had been sent downstairs. You could have changed before coming, Isatu said. Mariama's expression did not move. I worked all night. You always say that as if work explains everything. It explains your tuition. Darius closed his eyes. Gloria looked away. Isatu's jaw tightened. Do not do this here. Where should I do it? Mariama asked. At the service entrance? For the first time, Isatu had no quick answer. She took out her phone and typed a message. Gloria's radio crackled almost immediately. A male voice from hotel security asked for her location. Gloria looked at Isatu. What did you tell them? That someone is interfering with event operations. Darius stared at his sister. Someone? Isatu pressed her lips together. Mariama felt the old instinct rise inside her. The instinct that had kept the children calm after Samuel died. That had paid late fees before they knew there were late fees. That had swallowed exhaustion so no one else had to taste it. She could leave. She could protect Isatu again. Then her eyes fell on the final page in the archive box. It was a copy of the original corrective action report. At the bottom, beside Malcolm Reed's signature, was a handwritten sentence. Miss Conte's evidence protected this hotel from preventable harm. Mariama lifted the page. I will not leave because the truth is inconvenient. Footsteps approached from the corridor. 2 security employees appeared beside the open door. Isatu straightened. Please escort her out quietly. Before either man moved, the service elevator chimed behind them. The doors opened. Malcolm Reed stepped into the corridor, removed his glasses, and stared directly at Mariama. Malcolm Reed stood inside the open elevator for one quiet second before stepping into the corridor. At 62, he carried himself with the measured calm of a man accustomed to entering rooms after others had already made mistakes. His charcoal overcoat was folded over one arm. His eyes moved first to the 2 security employees, then to the open archive box, then to Mariama. Mariama Conte, he said. He did not ask whether it was her. Isatu moved quickly. Mr. Reed, there has been a misunderstanding. Malcolm kept looking at Mariama. Why are you standing in the housekeeping records room during your family banquet? The word "you're" struck harder than anything Isatu had said all evening. Mariama held the corrective action report against her coat. They believed I belonged behind the ballroom. Malcolm glanced toward the silver coat check tray on the cart. Then he looked at the security employees. Who requested her removal? Neither man answered immediately. Isatu did. I did. She was disrupting the event. Darius stepped forward. She was invited. He removed Malcolm's old letter from his jacket. Her name was taken off the guest list. Isatu turned toward him. Darius. No. His voice shook, but he did not lower it. You told them she was staff. Malcolm accepted the letter and opened it. His own signature sat at the bottom, darker than the faded hotel crest. For years, Mariama had imagined that if she ever saw him again, he would have forgotten the details. Executives remembered reports, not the women who carried them. But Malcolm touched the handwritten note beneath the signature and looked at her with something close to shame. You kept this? He asked. Gloria did. Gloria stood beside the archive box. Some records should not disappear because the people inside them wore uniforms. Malcolm nodded once. Then he crossed the narrow room and embraced Mariama. The hug was brief and careful, but it changed the temperature of the corridor. The security employees stepped back. Darius lowered his head. Isatu became completely still. Malcolm released Mariama and held her at arm's length. You should have been welcomed through the front entrance. Mariama answered quietly. I was. Her eyes moved to Isatu. My family sent me back here. Malcolm looked at the gold event badge at Isatu's waist. Did your company remove her from the guest list? Isatu recovered enough to straighten her shoulders. The registration file was incomplete. I was trying to prevent a scene. Mariama unfolded the printed invitation from her handbag and placed it beside the budget sheet in Darius's hand. The invitation was complete. Darius showed Malcolm the line marked Anonymous Family Support. She paid $19,000. Malcolm read the amount, then looked toward the ceiling where applause continued above them. For tonight? Mariama nodded. Isatu spoke quickly. It was a family contribution. Mom did not ask for public recognition. She asked to enter the room, Darius said. Isatu's face tightened. You do not understand what is at stake. Mariama turned fully toward her daughter. Then explain it. Isatu glanced at Malcolm, Gloria, the security employees, and the open records. There was nowhere left to place the truth without someone seeing it. My clients are upstairs, she said. They are deciding whether I receive the hotel's regional events contract. They expect a certain level of presentation. Mariama looked down at her gray work coat. And I lower it. Isatu's silence answered. You used my money to build a room where I embarrass you, Mariama said. That is not fair. Neither was sending me through a service door so strangers would not know who raised you. Isatu's eyes shone, but her voice remained controlled. You always make sacrifice sound like a debt. No, I made it a shelter. You turned it into something to hide. The corridor fell quiet, except for the distant music. Malcolm closed the archive box and handed the old letter back to Mariama. This cannot remain downstairs. Isatu stepped toward him. Mr. Reed, please. Whatever happened years ago has nothing to do with my event. Malcolm looked at her. Your event is being paid for by a woman you asked security to remove. Her history has everything to do with what happens next. He pressed the elevator button, then changed his mind and walked toward the ballroom stairs. We are going in through the main doors. Isatu followed him. You cannot turn a private misunderstanding into a public spectacle. Malcolm stopped without facing her. You made it public when you humiliated her in front of your guests. He opened the steel door leading toward the ballroom entrance. Warm light spilled into the corridor. The room will hear the truth before it hears another speech. Malcolm did not open the ballroom doors immediately. He led them through the upper corridor where the carpet softened every footstep, and the music grew clearer behind the walls. Mariama walked beside him with the old corrective action report folded against her coat. Gloria carried the archive box. Darius held the budget sheet and the transfer confirmation he had pulled from Isatu's event file. Isatu followed several steps behind, her gold badge catching the warm light each time she moved. No one spoke until they reached the glass doors outside the ballroom. Through them, Mariama could see the stage, the white tables, and the large screen displaying photographs of the Conte family. One image showed Samuel holding Isatu on his shoulders during their first summer in Calgary. Another showed Darius at graduation. Mariama appeared only once, half visible at the edge of a group photograph. You do not have to do this tonight, she said. Malcolm looked at her. You mean protect your daughter? I mean, avoid turning pain into entertainment. His expression softened. Then we tell only what belongs to the truth. Gloria set the archive box on a console table and removed 4 documents. The original incident report, the training record, Malcolm's signed letter, the corrective action summary. She left the employee names covered. Darius placed the transfer confirmation beside them. $19,000 from Mariama's savings account to Isatu's event company. Isatu stepped closer. You cannot show private financial information to a ballroom. The amount can remain private, Malcolm said. The source cannot. Isatu looked at her mother. If you let him do this, everyone will remember me for one mistake. Mariama turned toward her. You asked security to remove me. I panicked. You planned the guest list weeks ago. Isatu's eyes moved away. The silence was answer enough. Mariama opened her handbag and touched Samuel's blue handkerchief. For years, she had kept every humiliation small so her children could remain large. She had laughed when classmates mocked her accent. She had hidden swollen hands after overnight shifts. She had allowed Isatu to tell people that scholarships paid for school because pride had seemed harmless when it belonged to a frightened young woman. But pride had grown teeth. Now it stood between Mariama and a room financed by her labor. Darius came beside her. "I saw what she was doing at the entrance," he said. "I should have spoken." Mariama looked at him. "Yes?" He lowered his head. She did not soften the word. Forgiveness without truth would only teach him that silence carried no cost. Gloria adjusted the papers so the dates could be read clearly. "The ballroom staff already know something happened," she said. "Security logged the request. The registration desk recorded that your valid invitation was rejected." Malcolm nodded. "There will be an internal review after tonight." Isatu's face tightened. "You are destroying my company," Malcolm answered calmly. "Your company is being examined because of what you did. Those are not the same thing." From inside the ballroom came Auntie Hawa's amplified voice, introducing Isatu's keynote address. Applause began. Isatu reached for the door handle. Malcolm placed his hand over it first. "Not yet," he turned to Mariama. "When we enter, I will say what I witnessed years ago. Gloria will confirm the records. Darius will confirm the payment. You decide whether you speak." Mariama looked through the glass at the room that had rejected her coat, but accepted her money. "I will speak once." Malcolm opened the doors. Warm light moved across the gray fabric of her uniform coat. The applause continued for 3 seconds before the first guests noticed who was walking beside the hotel owner. Then the room began to fall silent. The ballroom fell silent in layers. First, the tables nearest the doors stopped clapping. Then the guests on the far side turned toward Malcolm Reed. By the time Mariama reached the center aisle, even Auntie Hawa had lowered the microphone. Isatu remained near the stage, beneath a screen that still displayed the words, "sacrifice" and "success." Her smile had disappeared. Malcolm did not hurry. He walked beside Mariama while Gloria carried the selected records and Darius followed with the payment documents. Guests watched the gray work coat they had mistaken for a uniform of invisibility. At the first table, one of Isatu's corporate clients stood to greet Malcolm, but he raised a hand. "Please remain seated." His voice carried without effort. "Before this program continues, this room needs to correct an error." Isatu stepped toward him. "Mr. Reed, may we discuss this privately?" The decision to remove a valid guest was not private. A murmur moved through the ballroom. Malcolm turned toward Mariama. "This is Mariama Conte. She is not a member of tonight's cleaning staff. She is the mother of the event planner. She is also a former housekeeping employee of this hotel." Auntie Hawa looked down at the tablecloth. Malcolm continued. "Nearly 20 years ago, Miss Conte documented falsified safety inspections, improper chemical storage, and unpaid work imposed on immigrant employees. She recorded dates, rooms, supervisors, and witnesses when others were afraid to speak. Gloria placed the incident report and corrective action summary beneath the document camera. The screen changed, from family photographs to Mariama's careful handwriting. Private employee names remained covered, but the dates, violations, and Malcolm's signature were visible. Her evidence allowed this hotel to remove a dishonest manager and correct serious failures before guests or workers were harmed, Malcolm said. When she was offered a personal reward, she refused it. She asked that the money fund safety training and language support for immigrant staff. Several Banquet employees stopped along the walls. One older server pressed a hand to her mouth. Isatu looked toward the exit, but Darius stepped forward before she could speak. "There is another correction." He gave the event finance coordinator the transfer confirmation and budget sheet. "Our mother paid most of tonight's cost. Her contribution was recorded as anonymous support, and her name was removed from the guest list." The coordinator examined the documents, then nodded toward Malcolm. "The transfer matches the event account. No amount was projected onto the screen." It did not need to be. The truth had already changed the room. Isatu reached for the microphone. "My mother did not request recognition. I was trying to keep the focus on the whole family." Mariama looked at the stage where her daughter had planned to speak about sacrifice without naming the person who had carried it. "You did not protect the family," she said. "You protected an image." Isatu's voice tightened. "I made a mistake. A mistake happens once. You removed my name weeks ago. You accepted my money. You watched me enter. Then you sent me downstairs." The words were quiet. That made them harder to escape. Auntie Hawa rose halfway from her chair. "Mariama, I did not know." Mariama turned to her. "You knew enough to decide where I belonged." Hawa sat down again. Isatu's corporate clients exchanged glances. The hotel's regional events director stood near the stage with a folder closed against her chest. "Miss Conte," she said to Isatu, "we will be pausing all contract discussions pending review of tonight's conduct and the event documentation." Isatu stared at her. "You cannot judge my entire company by one family misunderstanding," Malcolm answered before anyone else could. "This hotel is not reviewing your family. It is reviewing your professional decisions." The ballroom remained still. Mariama stepped toward the microphone, but did not take it from her daughter. She spoke from where she stood. "Cleaning was never beneath me. Hiding the truth was beneath you." No one applauded immediately. The sentence did not ask for applause. It asked the room to see her clearly. Then one banquet worker began clapping near the back wall. Another joined. The sound spread slowly through employees first, then guests. Mariama looked past the tables toward the service doors. They were still open. For the first time that evening, no one was trying to close them around her. The applause did not restore the evening. It only ended the lie. Isatu stood near the stage while the hotel's regional events director asked her to surrender the event file and remain available for a formal review. Malcolm Reed instructed security to document the rejected invitation, the removal request, and the altered guest list. The banquet finance coordinator copied the transfer record and the sponsorship sheet. No one raised their voice. The consequences arrived through signatures, timestamps, and closed folders. Isatu watched each document leave her control. "This is excessive," she said. "I made a family decision." Malcolm looked at her. "You used hotel staff to enforce it," the regional director added. "And you misrepresented the event funding while seeking a commercial contract from us?" She informed Isatu that all negotiations concerning the regional events agreement were suspended immediately. Existing invoices would be reviewed. Her company would not be considered for new hotel work until the investigation was complete. Isatu turned toward Mariama. "Tell them this was personal." Mariama remained beside the aisle in her gray work coat. "It became professional when you used your badge to remove me. You know what losing this contract could do." "I knew what losing $19,000 could do." Isatu's face tightened. Mariama continued quietly. "I paid it because I believed I was helping you begin. I will not pay again to erase what you chose." Darius stepped beside his mother. "I saw what happened at the entrance," he told the regional director. "I said nothing." His voice shook, but he did not hide behind it. "I should be included in the report." Mariama looked at him. He had not asked for forgiveness. That mattered. Across the room, Auntie Hawa approached slowly. The confidence had left her posture. "Mariama," I spoke without knowing. Mariama held her gaze. "You knew I was wearing work clothes. You decided that was enough." Hawa opened her mouth, then closed it. There was no sentence that could make the moment smaller. Malcolm asked the banquet staff to continue dinner only after the official review documents were secured. Mariama requested one change. The employees who have been standing along these walls should eat when service ends. At tables, not over a sink. Gloria's eyes softened. Malcolm nodded. "Done." Isatu removed her gold event badge and placed it on the registration table. For the first time that night, she looked less like an executive than a daughter who had mistaken distance for success. She approached Mariama after the guests returned to their seats. "Are you going to leave me with nothing?" Mariama touched the blue handkerchief inside her bag. "I am leaving you with the truth. What you build from it is yours." Isatu looked toward the stage, where her keynote speech still waited unopened. "I was ashamed they would judge me because of your work," Mariama answered. So you judged me first. Isatu lowered her eyes. Mariama did not embrace her. Mercy did not require pretending the wound had closed. Later, after the final plates were cleared, Mariama sat at a round table near the service doors with Gloria, Darius, and the banquet workers. The ballroom was quieter, without speeches. Shoes had been loosened beneath chairs. People ate warm food while it was still warm. Malcolm joined them carrying a small brass key on a faded hotel tag. He placed it in front of Mariama. The old training room downstairs has been closed for years, he said. We have funds set aside for workforce development, but no one who understands what the program should protect. Mariama looked at the key. You want me to run it? I want you to help us open it correctly. She did not answer immediately. Beyond the glass doors, Calgary snow moved through the streetlights. Behind her, the service corridor remained open. Mariama closed her hand around the key. It was colder than she expected. 6 months later, the brass key opened a different kind of door. The old training room beneath Reed Grand Calgary Hotel had been rebuilt with bright workstations, safety charts, language support materials, and a glass panel that faced the main corridor instead of hiding behind it. Above the entrance, a simple sign read, "The Front Door Initiative." Mariama had refused every suggestion that the program carry her name. It should belong to the people who need it next, she had said. She still supervised night sanitation at the hospital 3 evenings a week. On the other days, she advised the hotel program, teaching new immigrant workers how to document unsafe conditions, understand workplace rights, and speak without apologizing for being heard. Gloria directed the practical training. Her silver-threaded braids had become familiar to every new class. Darius designed a secure reporting system that allowed employees to record concerns without sending them through the same supervisors they might need to report. He drove from Edmonton twice a month and never described the work as repayment. Isatu's regional contract was never restored. The review found that she had removed Mariama from the guest list, misrepresented the event funding, and used hotel staff to exclude a valid guest. Her company survived, but smaller. She lost clients who had trusted her judgment and spent months rebuilding without her mother's savings beneath her. Mariama did not rescue her. She answered phone calls, but not invoices. She listened but did not erase consequences. On the morning of the program's first graduation, Isatu arrived early in a plain navy coat with no company badge. She stood before the banquet workers and trainees gathered in the training room. I believed status could protect me from being judged, she said. Instead, I used it to judge the person who protected me most. Her voice shook. She turned toward Mariama. I am sorry I made your work something to hide. Mariama studied her daughter's face. The apology was not polished enough for a client presentation. That made it more believable. Begin with how you treat people when nobody important is watching, she said. Isatu nodded. Mariama did not tell her that everything was forgiven. Some beginnings required honesty before comfort. Malcolm watched from the doorway, but did not take the microphone. The program no longer needed him to explain why Mariama mattered. The evidence of her value stood in the room itself. 12 trainees completed paid safety certification that morning. 8 were women. Most were black immigrants from Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ethiopia, and the Caribbean. Several had been told their accents made them unsuitable for leadership. One had spent 3 years cleaning offices without receiving formal training. Another had never entered a hotel through the front doors, except as a guest's cleaner. After the certificates were distributed, Mariama led the group upstairs. They crossed the same corridor where security had once been called to remove her. The steel service door remained open, but no one directed them toward it. At the lobby, a young Sierra Leonean woman named Kadiatu slowed beside the revolving entrance. She held her new hotel identification card in both hands. Is this where staff should enter? She asked. Mariama looked through the glass at the pale Calgary morning. Snow had gathered along the curb, and sunlight reflected from the towers across the street. She opened the main door and held it. This is where people enter, she said. Kadiatu stepped through first. The others followed in their uniforms, speaking softly in several languages. Gloria came after them. Darius held the final certificate box. Aisatu walked beside her mother without moving ahead. Mariama remained at the door until every trainee had crossed the threshold. Then she placed Samuel's blue handkerchief back inside her handbag, closed her fingers around the brass key, and entered last. The glass door moved shut behind her. No one was sent around the side.